what metrics are there that can be trackable?
Well, yeah, we always calculate the market share. So how much market share does like which brand or which product from our competitors have, right? And then you can check like the brand analytics, search term reports. You can have.
How to analyze competitors' data?
I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. If I were to point out just probably a couple of things on this, is CTR is going to vary considerably depending on whether or not it's branded search or not, whether or not it had a top of search placement or not.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Rich Sellers Podcast. Today, I join in by two of the very special guests. So, today's topic is going to be very exciting. Today, we are going to go deep dive into metrics. What metrics are Amazon sellers should follow? So, we- uh, by going deep into this topic, let's first start with the introduction with our guest today. Mels, would you want to start with the introduction?
Sure. Okay. Great. Nice to meet you all. My name is Mels. I'm from the Netherlands. Typical Dutch guy, born and raised. I'm selling on Amazon since 2014. Been an entrepreneur since I was 21. I turned 40. I turned 40 this year. In my last couple of years of selling on Amazon, learned a ton of stuff. Dove deep into how the Amazon algorithm works. We read all the documentation probably you can find there. So that's a little bit of my background.
That's great. Brian, a small introduction about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I'm Brian Johnson. I'm with Canopy Management, and I've been in the e-commerce space for about 15 years now, in the Amazon space for about 8 years now, and mostly just to solve my own challenges. I created a number of companies in this space to make things work a lot faster when it comes to advertising, conversion rate optimization, ranking, these kind of things. So I continue to do that. That's a lot of fun for me. I help a lot of people in the process, and
That's
glad
great.
to contribute to today's topic.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining today. So, today we are going to go deep into all metrics. First, we'll start with product launch, then we'll go over listings, ads, split tests, all sorts of things. So, let's first start with product launch. So, Brian, you can take this. Let's talk about a product launch. A seller is launching a product, and what are the few metrics that he should look at? Because at this point of time, I am not sure whether he should look at a cost as a metric right now or not.
No, not during launch. No, no. I mean, with launch, it's one of those things. I mean, there's launch and there's pre-launch, right?
Yeah.
From a pre-launch is less about metrics. It's more about how do you differentiate from your competition. Because if you're coming in with the same product as everybody else has, you're not going to stand out. You're always going to be fighting against the metrics that come during launch. Generally, what we're looking at from a launch sequence, the first few weeks is certainly going to be even with good keyword research, and there's phenomenal keyword research tools out there. You're still the traditional way of keyword research and then testing and advertising. It's historically flawed, and that is starting to evolve now once again, but it's been kind of stagnant for a long time in that even the best keyword research, the standard advertising methodology on Amazon is to throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. In other words, see what happens, see if I get visibility. If Amazon says, okay, your product is relevant enough that I'm going to show your ads, which of course is going to be impressions. So that's going to be the first metric on ads is, are you getting the impressions or are you not? And there's some certain rules and triggers that either create that or block that from happening. So impressions is just the first signal that Amazon considers the product relevant to an audience set of search terms. From there, of course, you've got click-through rate on your ads. That's the audience echoing back and saying, yes, the search results came back with things that were relevant to me, and I find your main image and your title interesting enough in order to click through. It could be out of curiosity, it could be out of desire for the product. Maybe you have something that's hooked in the title and the words that resonates with what they're looking for. That click-through rate is going to tell you how close did you get in front, did your ads get in front of the correct audience. And so there's a certain range as far as click-through rate that's going to tell you whether you did that correctly or not. And then ultimately you've got conversion rate.
Yeah.
The normal rule of thumb, with any kind of launch is don't expect it to convert right away unless you came to market with something that is definitely stands out from the competition. Then you should have no problem, even with very few, if no reviews. But that's kind of the job of connecting. So just from an ad standpoint, during a PPC launch, those are the three big metrics that I typically would start to look at. That's just one piece of the launch story, right?
Yeah. Mels, do you want to add something to it?
No, basically the metrics you mentioned are spot on. Like I believe it starts with CTR. CTR is the most
Yeah.
important metric in the beginning. Like you get exposure, especially if you run ads, you get exposure. So Amazon is showing you somewhere, but you want to get the click. So if you don't get the click, and how Amazon works, and that's, well, if you do it with PPC in organic, it's even more aggressive. So they have their spear phishing methods where they take your item and show it on top of search for some mysterious decided keywords from Amazon, like for a couple of minutes. So they show your product, and then they detect if people are going to click or not. So very important is the factors what trigger people to click. And I think Brian, you touched on that, very briefly, but it's the image. The image have to stand out, image have to be good, and have to touch on like an emotional and a rational level on the customer, so they click on your item. So, and there are several things. So it's, of course, the product tile consists of like several items. It's the main image, it's the title, the price, and the stars. Well, if you don't have stars, that's something you cannot take into account. But then price is a thing. But what we found, as soon as Amazon takes you with the spear phishing method, they show you, they they compare your metrics with other metrics of items that they had in the same process. And
Right.
then there's either several things that can happen. You either do worse than them, equal to them, or better. And that's how actually the Amazon algorithm is working. So they have their priors, which is, well, an algorithmic term, but based on the non-behavioral feature, which is your keywords that are in the product, they make a snapshot of your product and they say, oh, this product is relevant in this niche, so we're going to do the spear phishing for this specific search queries. And then they take your product and put it on somewhere in search, and then they compare it. Is
Mhm.
it the same, better or worse? And then they say, if it's better, then you are outperforming other products in your niche. So then ranking is increasing very fast. And similar things we see happening on the ad platform. Like if you come in with a new listing and you for example you bid like $5 per click, $1,000 budget per day, well, chances are slim to none that budget will be like consumed by Amazon, right? They first
Yeah.
want to know, is this product actually worthwhile showing somewhere in the Amazon search? Because in the end, the only thing that Amazon wants is the biggest revenue per happy visitor, right? So that's what they want. So either if you bid very high, but I don't know if people that are clicking are actually buying the product, they're wasting money. So it's a balanced kind of thing. And
Yeah.
we believe that in the beginning, it's definitely not ACOS you have to focus on, definitely not anything else. It's sales velocity. You want to have exposure, so you want to be there for the right keywords, and then have a high CTR. CTR is the first and most important thing that Amazon decides. Like, okay, people are actually clicking on this item, although the price is this. They have no reviews. Amazon knows that, right? Then
Right.
people are clicking, and then from the
Mhm.
click, people come into your store. So they come through the front door, they look around in the store, and they say, okay, I'm convinced and persuaded to buy this product, and that's the conversion. So in the beginning, whatever you can do, spend as much you can on PPC. If Amazon spends it all, that's a very good sign. Never run out of budget, but yeah, most certainly don't optimize for any profit in the beginning. You just want to get the
Yeah.
exposure, want to educate the algorithm that your product is worthwhile for the queries that they decided to
Mhm.
put you on top of search for.
Yeah, I completely agree with Mel on a number of those points. Certainly, most sellers are not familiar with how the ad auction sequentially works. Um, the show's not big enough to go through all that, but
It's a long topic.
absolutely right is, the click through rate is an indication of relevance to the target audience. And if Amazon's going to have a certain range, they're going to say this is within the normal expected range because humans are very
Yeah.
predictable, and they have a very large data set. They can say this specifically is the keyword clicks and the browsing behavior and the click through that we're going to expect. If it doesn't fall within that specific range, then you're not relevant compared to your. Again, it's always relevance, or it should be in relative to your competitors. That's where things like the search term impression share report and brand metrics, category conversion rate, and those kinds of additional reports that Amazon has released definitely help to clarify that, when before it was simply like, okay, that seems like it's a low click through rate or it's a high click through rate, branded term versus non branded term. Click through rate is definitely going to be um, the the first metric,
Mhm.
even though for most sellers, click through rate seems a bit counterintuitive to what they would expect as far as conversion rate that Amazon would focus on. They don't, because they want to make sure that the shoppers stay on the platform longer, so that they end up, putting more in the basket and buying more and come back more frequently because they're satisfied with their search and the results they get. And so their first focus is keep the shopper happy so that they continue to shop, not just I'm going to go for a quick buck and close this sale. So Mel's dead on. Like click through rate by far has got to be the one that should have. That's usually the biggest indicator to me of whether the targeting is on or off, whether it's correct
Yeah.
or not.
I think that completely makes sense. Happy customer is something that Amazon always looks for. And again, when we talk about CTR, obviously it is kind of time sensitive, right? Because the CTR in the starting, when you're launching, it will be very low because you'll probably have very less reviews. Your price, you are testing it out. Again, a lot of social proof is not there in your listing. So I think you guys touched on really important points about the relevancy of the keywords. One report we really like is search term impression share report, because here we can get an idea about if we are taking a market share for a keyword through our ads and we are not converting, our ACOS is not good, our CTR is not good, then probably that keyword is not relevant for us. No
Yeah.
matter how much we are bidding, Amazon is not going to show us because it is not relevant for that audience. So keyword relevancy in the starting, how you're doing your keyword research is very important when it comes to launch, right? So again, when it comes to launch, tracking your competitors is really important, right? So Males, I'm sure you have a really good experience in split testing. So do you think what metrics are there that can be trackable when it comes to tracking your competitors? Because I'm sure Amazon is not going to release their data, right? Or, I mean, we cannot track any of our competitors' data straight from Amazon. Though
Well,
brand analytics shares some of that, but when it comes to ranking and stuff, what kind of data can we look at to track our competitors' progress?
Well, yeah, we always calculate the market share. So how much market share
Mhm.
does like which brand or which product from our competitors have, right? And then you can check like the brand analytics, search term reports. You can have search query performance reports. As soon as you have that data, you can make rough calculations like how many sales or how many keywords getting, and then you can see the
Mhm.
keyword rank of your competitors and all that stuff, and of course the BSR and things like that. But it always only touches like on a certain element of Amazon,
Yeah.
which is the search. And then you have the ads, of course, where you can see the ads, but you don't know how much your competitors are bidding for certain keywords unless you're going in some unethical ways to find that. There are ways to do that, but I would never advise anyone to go that route. But yeah, that those are the metrics we usually track. But then the most important what we do, and that's where we created Intellivy for that in a couple of years ago
Mhm.
in 2017, is we just want to know, because CTR is so important, like what make people click on our competitors. So what we do, and that's how Intellivy was built, is we just put some of the listings next to each other, so 5 competitors next to each other, and then we just send 125 people to those listings with a specific question. Okay, this is your problem that you're having, so you're looking for a solution. Now, which of these products would you buy and why? And then we ask 2 questions: which one would you buy and
Yeah.
why, and which one would you not buy and why? And that's appears to be a gold mine of information to understand, just based on the thumbnail. So the title, the bullets, the
Hmm.
title, the main image, the price. And many times we blur out the reviews and the price, so we just want to have the main image and the title, because those are the factors that you want to influence in the beginning, right? um, and then we find out, like, hey, we would pick this product for XYZ reason. Like, oh, we never thought about that. Okay, so this one has actually 30% of the clicks from all these 5 items because of this reason. And then the question comes, how can I put that into my main image? And we even do
Yeah.
that process before we actually develop our products, to make the best product possible that actually taps into the real problems and the solutions for the problems that people see,
Hmm.
or the perception, from a perception standpoint, in the market. So, and then we can craft the best product. Even if you already have a product, we do that simply to understand why people click on a certain product. And sometimes it's the color, sometimes it's a wording in the packaging, sometimes it's a specific word in the title that people say, hey, this is actually for me, persuading me to click on this thing. That's a very simple thing to change on my end, right? So these are the things you cannot find in Amazon. But that's why we build this tool. And then we also can see, like, what kind of queries people are searching for, and what is the highest search volume keywords. And, well, Amazon did a very great job with the SQP reports, the SQP data reports, search query performance reports. Now you get much more in-depth information about, like, what people are clicking on, what the conversion rates are.
Yeah.
And then you can lay that on top of the search term report, so you can see what the conversion share, the click share are for these specific keywords. And then you can reverse engineer basically how many sales they have. So that's how we track competitors, because that was initially the question, right? I've got a little bit of track now.
Yeah.
um, so we want to know why people click on those listings, to see if we can improve that. And then that's like a cycle of testing. But also see for which keywords they rank, and try to figure out, like, why are they ranking so good for these keywords, like. And that's a relationship between the query, the search query, and the product itself. There might be some relationship that this product is just very relevant for it, right? And then comes the question for your own products, like, how can I make my product look relevant for these items? And maybe it's not. Maybe my product doesn't have a certain feature that's mentioned, or that's the intent of this search query. So I just
Hmm.
have to leave that keyword to my competitors and focus on other keywords, right? So it's a kind of a balanced thing. But yeah, it's not a simple answer, to be honest, to what do you check from your competitors. It's a lot of things. But yeah, this is like a briefly what we do.
Yeah, I think Amazon was really insecure with their data, but it looks like right now they are releasing a lot of data to sellers, right? So one funny story, we had one client who is in supplements, and we just asked them to do one thing: just change the dimension of height of their image from let's assume 1000 to just do 1500, so that the image looks taller. And we can see the data in business report, that how much sessions we're getting from mobiles versus browser. And funny enough, their CTR increase really high. So Brian, do you want to add something to this, how to analyze competitors data?
I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. If I were to point out just probably a couple of things on this, is
Hmm.
CTR is going to vary considerably depending on whether or not it's a branded search or not, whether or
Yeah.
not it has a top of search placement or not. And so sometimes you can, positioning or what's in the keyword or what's in the search term can can skew that click through rate.
Hmm.
Ultimately, it's going to be a relative comparison to your other keywords that you're going after, certainly to competitors, and identifying, just trying more validating that I know my product is about this topic. And if I've got a very low search or a very low click through rate on search terms that I think are directly relevant to my target audience, then that's a signal back to me that my listing is not optimized correctly. And it requires some more split testing, starting out with the main image and the title, of course, especially that first 75 characters on the title, since that's what's visible by default on mobile. Um, Amazon's, and part of that is, I'm glad that Mel's brought up as far as what you're doing as far as with Intellivy. I have a little bit of a different opinion in that I kind of only trust Amazon's um, experiments as far as their A/B split testing, but it's a very weak A/B split testing. So it's native. It's properly doing, the one for one alternative, comparison. There's a true A/B testing on platform for conversion, but it's only
Yeah.
looking at conversion, right? It's not looking at the impact it made on sessions. It's not looking at click through rate. It's just kind of like saying, okay, did it convert or not? There's a lot of
Mhm.
missing information there. That's where you have to go off Amazon to third party. Intellivy probably has this, where you're looking at, okay, I'm going to poll an audience and get their opinion. Is it e-commerce valid? In my opinion, no. However, if Amazon doesn't provide it, they've got to get that information somewhere. You've got to do some kind of split testing, even though it may not be what I consider to be true A/B split testing. So it's kind of a combination of both, right? Where you've got to do some kind of testing. If you do neither, you're absolutely going to be at a disadvantage to those who do either one or both, right?
Yeah. And
Um,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Good, Nelson.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. You tap on the Amazon A/B test, the split testing stuff. Like, what you're saying is completely right. Like what we figured out a couple of years ago, you can do that, right? You run an Amazon experiment, and back then you had like Splitly and stuff like that.
Yep.
But it's kind of tough to find out, like, okay, if I change something, what is changing, right? If I keep the same search
Yep.
rank for the same search queries, but I change my main image, so right now it's a better fit with a different type of customer,
mhm.
but I'm not ranking for that yet, right? So you get the wrong traffic to your listing, where, well, how to say that? Let's say that I have a product, and I'm exaggerating, so that's not possible, but I have a product for cat owners, but I see that my product is actually better for dog owners. So I split it into a dog owner main image, right?
Right.
What happens first, because I'm ranking for all those cat related keywords, is that my conversion rate and CTR will drop dramatically because people want to click on it. But that's because I'm going to tap into the dog owner market, but it will take at least a week or two before I actually start ranking there and get more relevant there. So, and in that period, if you run like an A/B test or an Amazon experiment, they will not detect that. They will say, no, it's actually worse than what you've had. So it will actually be the losing one in this. So, and well, now this is a very extreme change. Of course, you will never do that. Although there are products where this is possible, actually. Um, Pet supporting products where you can have a dog in the image or a cat in the image. And we've seen companies do that and help customers do make these dramatic changes. But that's where A/B split testing is not optimal. The other thing is that it take a long time. You need a lot of data.
Mhm.
And now you can do it in a shorter period, but then you need to have, well, at least in order to get started, you need to have at least 100 sales, like on each variation, to make a good valid decision
Yeah.
in the boundaries of statistical significance, right? If you don't have that over a certain period of time, you better not do it, because statistical significance is a very important factor. So that
Right.
will take you a long time. If you, let's say you have like 4 ideas of what kind of image you can change, then you need to have like 5 cycles of like a month and a half, which is almost a year, that you, or like 3 quarters of a year, you're working to find the best image. So we thought, like, how can we speed up that process? And of course, if we take with Intellivy, we take people and we try to match as close as possible the real customer. So we simulate the marketplace exactly how Amazon looks, either on mobile or on desktop, whatever the people we send to it are coming from. We mimic that. So we try to replicate it as much as possible. And the people that we have are real online Amazon shoppers, and it's our own audience. We trained it over the last couple of years, spend millions of dollars to find all those people. But that's the thing. We don't want to work with any third party service where people are like doing thousands of those campaigns like every day. But
Yeah.
it's still like a simulated environment. It's not reality. But what you're saying, Brian, is exactly true. You have to do something. If you don't do anything, right, then
Yeah. For
it
sure, you're going
takes
to
a
get
while.
past.
Exactly. That's all you can do. So you better test. And of course, then in the end, you can do like an Amazon experiment. But we said we want to have like 5 images tested like in one day. So how
Right.
can we do that? Like do 5 different campaigns and you can see which one actually is the winner. And the reasoning behind it helps us tremendously to make these moves, because that's another thing that Amazon, like A/B tests or Amazon experiments, are not giving you the context, right? It's only like, okay, but this is change. This is the winner and that's the loser. But why? Right? We have guys that worked at a small company in Amsterdam called Booking.com, And I
Mhm.
think between 2000 and 2010, they were the number one company that were doing the most. They ran simultaneously 2,000 split tests in a single day. Like that was how they did it. But they had the same problem, like we missing the context. So we thought, like, how can you create a context? And that's the thing. But anyway, to your point,
I,
Brian, because I'm taking too much time right now, but testing is definitely a thing you should do. If you don't do that, well, then it's basically a wild guess.
yeah, and I'm curious as far as like I do certainly expected that the technology changes that we're seeing exposed more this year are definitely going to have an effect on what we use as far as for simulated testing as well. Certainly in the Amazon space, we are currently at the fourth generation of software, and fifth generation is currently being developed, right? And I'm not talking about Chat GPT, but I am talking about as far as artificial intelligence. Some of the research that we've done on this when it comes to keyword relevance on listings and listing optimization as far as the title and the main image is that um, we as humans we like to think more linear, more binary, I guess, as far as like, okay, it's this keyword has relevance to this product because I understand what this product is for, therefore this keyword is relevant. But keep in mind is that Amazon's backend engine is an AI driven machine learned system, so it's not confined to just keyword matching, saying no, this is a one for one, this is a dog collar and therefore you're selling a dog collar, therefore it's a one-to-one match. It can go beyond that, and we've tested this and found that it is there's a lot of conceptual type of connections it'll make as far as relevance, um, philosophical, theological, kind of connections it'll make. So it's thinking more on the broader scope than what we currently think about, and we haven't really embraced that yet. It hasn't really become that well exposed, but it's starting to. Where here's kind of an example on this, and I'll try not to take too long on this one, Sammy, because I know that we've just talked about just launched so far.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like one of the projects I'm also working on is a fifth generation software for keyword ranking, and one of the things that we found during the research was, let's say, a book that is talking about, hey, it's a children's book for specific for is like a problem solving kind of workbook, just creative thinking kind of journal, and it'll index for a series of keywords that seem to have no relevance whatsoever. If you go back and you ask ChatGPT or Bard, why does Amazon's algorithm think this concept and this concept, these keywords are relevant to this product? It'll say, oh, well, in Singapore culture, math is taught conceptually based off of problem solving, not off of just doing the math, doing the problem. Right? It's thinking outside the box as far as understand why the math would apply and why it needs to be solved. And that's similar to what the content of your book